Donald Switzer, that is my name, and I speak it aloud tonight, not to introduce myself, but to hold myself accountable. For when you are given a message from the Lord, you cannot stay silent. You cannot hide behind the comfort of anonymity. You must stand before men and women and say plainly, "This is what I was shown, this is what I was told." So, hello, my friend. My name is Donald Switzer, and I welcome you to Near Death Diaries. I am not a preacher. I am not a prophet clothed in robes or carrying a title. I am a traveler, a tourist, really, a man who has wandered through cities, through mountains, through deserts and valleys, chasing sunsets and stories, collecting fragments of culture and whispers of eternity. And in those wanderings, I've learned something. If you quiet your heart, the world speaks. If you still your mind, God whispers. And sometimes he shouts. This is one of those times. Because recently, during a night I thought would be ordinary, the Lord himself came to me in a vision. His words were not wrapped in mystery. They were not softened by poetry. They were sharp, urgent, and clear. Donald, 3 cities in America must be warned. Tell them to leave before September 23rd. For those who remain, they will be attacked. I know how heavy those words sound. And believe me, I wrestled with them. I asked, Lord, why me? Why not someone greater, more credible, more accepted? But he pressed into my spirit. Because you will not dilute it. You will not twist it. You will deliver it exactly as you received it. And so here I am, not out of ambition, not out of fear, but out of obedience. This channel, Near Death Diaries, was built for this very moment. It is a gathering place for testimonies that shake us awake, for warnings that feel like lifelines tossed into raging waters. If you are here, you are not here by accident. Perhaps someone shared this video with you. Perhaps it found you in a late-night scroll. Either way, hear me. This is your confirmation. Before we begin, I must ask something of you, not for me, but for the countless souls who may need to hear this. Click like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because every action you take here pushes this message further, faster, into the hands of someone who may not survive without it. And I promise you this, if you stay with me until the very end, you will not walk away the same. You will not walk away with mere information. You will walk away with revelation, with clarity, with the tools to prepare, both in body and in spirit. So lean in closer. Listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because what I am about to share is not a story. It is a warning. And like Noah before the flood, like Lot before the fire, I must speak. Voice drops to a whisper 3 cities. One date. A command from the Lord himself. Will you hear it? The first city he showed me was New York. It began at the water's edge. I was standing at the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge, its steel cables rising like the strings of an instrument, straining, trembling, as if the city itself was about to be played by unseen hands. The East River below was restless, black waves churning as though something ancient and unsettled was stirring in its depths. And in that moment, I knew I was not dreaming. I was beholding a vision. The air around me grew heavy, almost metallic. A stillness fell, and yet beneath that stillness I could feel the pulse of the city, a heartbeat that was not human but built from glass, stone, and ambition. Skyscrapers stretched like spears into the heavens, as though man had forgotten Babel's lesson, and was building once more toward the throne of God. And then I heard it, a voice not thunderous, but sharp enough to pierce through bone. This city's pride will become its downfall. I saw beneath the surface, below the sidewalks, below the subways. I saw shadows moving underground. I saw fire erupting not from the sky, but from within. Subways, once veins of life carrying millions each day, became tunnels of death, sealing people inside. The bridges, those proud connectors between boroughs, rose like cages, locking crowds in. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. Their screams echoed like sirens, swallowed by smoke. And in the silence that followed, the voice came again. Tell them, leave before the 23rd. The walls of the city cannot protect them. It will devour whoever remains. New York, the jewel of finance, the theater of culture, the dream every immigrant once chased, the skyline every tourist longs to capture. It is not just a city, It is an emblem, a symbol of America's heartbeat. But symbols are not invincible. They are targets. And history has already whispered this truth to us. Do you remember? September 11th, 2001. A morning that began like any other. Coffee in hand, briefcases carried, laughter in the streets. And by noon, the world had shifted. The skyline itself was altered. Towers crumbled into dust, and with them, illusions of invulnerability. The smoke of that day still lingers in the memory of millions. I stood in that vision, and I felt it all over again. The panic, the confusion, the cries of why. And I realized what we thought was a single tragedy may have been only a shadow, a foreshadowing of something deeper yet to come. So I ask you, if New York fell once in a single morning, do you believe it cannot fall again? If fire could rain from the sky in 2001, can it not rise from below in 2025? If bridges can carry us safely across waters, can they not also trap us when escape is cut off? Tell me, friend, do you feel safe in New York? Or deep in your soul, do you sense what I sense, that the city's power, its glory, its pride are also the cracks that make it vulnerable? Drop your answer in the comments, because perhaps your unease is not paranoia. Perhaps it is confirmation. This was the first city, the first warning, the first gate the Lord showed me was trembling. And when he whispered the date, September 23rd, I felt the urgency of Noah pounding the ark's door shut, of Lot fleeing the fire as sulfur rained behind him. New York, the city that never sleeps. But soon, perhaps, the city that will never wake. And yet, it was only the beginning, for there were 2 more cities. The second city he showed me was Los Angeles. And let me tell you this, I have walked its streets as a tourist. I have stood in the sun where the Pacific meets the shore, watching the waves break endlessly as if the ocean itself was whispering secrets. I have walked in the shadow of the Hollywood sign, that proud white beacon carved into hillside, promising dreams to all who look upon it. I've seen the Walk of Fame, where stars are pressed into the concrete as though man could seal eternity in stone. I've breathed the air of glamour, of ambition, of stories spun and sold like golden threads. Los Angeles, the city of angels. But what I was shown was a city of smoke. In the vision, the sky above LA was not blue. It was gray, smeared with ash. The palm trees, once swaying with a breeze, stood motionless, their fronds heavy, scorched. People were running, not from an earthquake, not from wildfires, not even from a storm, but from men. Men carrying weapons, men who did not belong to the police or the military. These were not protectors. They were predators. I watched gangs, but not the gangs of rumor and stereotype. These were organized, trained, armed with precision. They moved like an invading army, but their uniforms bore no flag. They belonged to no nation. They were unleashed from within. And as the chaos spread through the boulevards, through downtown, through the neighborhoods, I heard the voice again. They will attack whoever remains. For the city of dreams will become the city of prey. Do you see the irony? The city that teaches the world how to dream, how to imagine, how to escape through story. That very city will be trapped in its own nightmare. And suddenly, I understood why Los Angeles was chosen. Because LA is not just streets and buildings. It is an idea. It is a factory of images, the engine of imagination. It is where the world comes to learn what to love, what to laugh at, what to desire, what to fear. And the enemy knows this. Control the screen and you control the story. Strike at Los Angeles, and you do not just wound a city, you wound the imagination of a nation. In the vision, I could almost hear the silence between screams. Studios abandoned, cameras overturned, the sound of sirens mixing with the sound of silence, as though the very storytellers had lost their script. Friends, if you live in California, if Los Angeles is your home, I ask you now, have you felt it? That gnawing unease when you walk certain streets? That whisper of danger when you hear of rising crime, of tension, of things unraveling in the city's seams? Tell me in the comments, am I speaking only my testimony, or is your spirit also stirring with recognition? I do not tell you this to cast fear over your heart. Fear shackles. But a warning can set you free. For when God warns, he also prepares. He gives us time. He gives us choices. He gives us escape routes. But in Los Angeles, I saw no escape once it began. The highways, usually jammed with cars, were frozen still, gridlocked, unmoving, useless. The very streets that once carried dreams westward became the snare of those who remained too long. And I thought of this. Los Angeles, the city of angels. What the angels themselves are preparing to withdraw. Their wings no longer spread in protection, but folded, waiting, grieving. New York was the first warning. Los Angeles the second. And when I awoke from that vision, my chest tight, my hands trembling, I realized the gates of finance may fall, but the gates of imagination are struck. How much more will the nation stumble? 3 cities he showed me. New York, Los Angeles, and one more still. Chicago, oh, Chicago. I must take a breath here, because even saying your name carries both beauty and sorrow. I remember the first time I walked your streets, the way the wind off Lake Michigan brushed against my face, how the towers rose like sentinels of steel, proud and defiant against the horizon. I remember your music, the blues floating out of small bars, the jazz bending notes into prayers. I remember your people, strong, resilient, carrying history's etched in their eyes, refusing to bow, even when storms rage against them. And yet in that vision, what I saw in you, Chicago, was unlike anything I had ever felt. The vision came upon me suddenly, without warning. One moment. I was recalling a summer's walk along Michigan Avenue, the hum of life, the laughter of children in Millennium Park. And then, in a heartbeat, all of it was consumed by a shadow. Smoke. Heavy, black smoke rising from downtown, choking the skies. I saw streets once filled with shoppers and tourists now lined with barricades. I saw fires crackling through buildings, glass shattering, sirens wailing in every direction. And then I saw men, not soldiers in uniform. No, these were militias, armed groups, faces hidden, voices shouting, not in one language but in many. They moved like currents through the city, breaking, tearing, claiming corners, as if carving up the very heart of Chicago. I remember my chest tightening as I tried to breathe within the vision. The smoke was not just in the air, it was in the spirit. It was as if the soul of the city itself was suffocating. Chicago, I asked the Lord, why here? Why now? Haven't they endured enough? Haven't they bled enough already on their streets? Haven't mothers already wept over sons? Haven't fathers already buried daughters? And then came the whisper, clear, piercing, steady. What begins as violence in the streets will not stay as violence in the streets. It will rise. It will escalate. It will grow into something larger. A fire that consumes more than buildings. It consumes peace. It consumes trust. It consumes the very idea of safety. I felt my spirit tremble, because Chicago is more than a city. It is a symbol, a heartbeat of the Midwest. A hub of transport, of trade, of life flowing in and out like the great rivers. If that heartbeat falters, if chaos seizes control, the pulse of a nation feels it. And I could not look away. The vision showed me people fleeing, crowds rushing into Union Station, seeking trains out, highways jammed, horns blaring, but no one moving. I saw mothers clutching children, fathers shouting names into the smoke, people searching desperately for loved ones. And then I saw the strangest thing, a map, a simple, glowing outline of the United States, and there, pulsing red, was Chicago. It pulsed once, twice, 3 times, and each pulse sent out ripples, like waves, across the rest of the country. The message was clear. What happens here will not stay here. It was then that my eyes filled with tears, because I know Chicago. I know her resilience, her music, her pride, but I also know her pain, the gunshots, the division, the tension that simmers just beneath the surface. And I realized the vision was not just about what might happen. It was about what happens when brokenness goes unhealed, when anger festers, when wounds are ignored. My friends, I tell you this with trembling lips. Chicago's warning is not just for Chicago. It is for every city, every town, every community. What I saw there was not just militias and smoke. It was a mirror reflecting the dangers we all face when division becomes stronger than unity, when hate speaks louder than love. Let me ask you, have we not seen hints of this already? Do you not feel the undercurrent of unrest, the tension at the edges of conversations, the polarization in every debate? What happens when those undercurrents break through the surface? What happens when the simmer becomes a boil? The Lord allowed me to see Chicago not to frighten you, but to awaken you, because smoke can be fought if the fire is caught early. Violence can be healed if reconciliation is sought quickly, and chaos can be turned back if we, as a people, return to the only one who can quiet the storm, Jesus Christ. Do you hear me? I am not sharing this as a politician. I am not speaking as a journalist. I am not even speaking as a tourist who once walked your streets. I am speaking as a man who was shown a glimpse of what could be, and who trembles with the responsibility to pass it on. Chicago is a cry to America, a cry to wake up, to watch, to pray, to repent, to prepare. And so I say to you, my dear friends, do not dismiss this. Do not scroll past it as if it were another video, another voice lost in the noise. This is a seed being planted in your spirit. Ask yourself, what is God showing me? What role do I play? What corner of my own heart must I guard against smoke and fire? For if Chicago is the third city, then the pattern is clear. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, east, west, center. A triangle drawn across the nation. Each point a warning, each vision a call. And what lies within that triangle? All of us. Will we hear? Will we turn? Will we be ready? Chicago, I carry you in my prayers. And I ask every viewer, whether you've walked your streets or only seen you on a map, to carry you in theirs too. For what happens to you may shape us all. And that, my friends, is what I saw. Why these three cities? Why New York? Why Los Angeles? Why Chicago? That was a question that weighed heavy on me, like a stone pressing against the chest. I asked it in prayer. I whispered it in sleepless nights. And the answer came slow, steady, like a revelation written not on paper, but on the very fabric of the soul. These cities are not chosen at random. They are gates, spiritual gates, portals through which influence, power, and destiny flow. New York, the gate of finance, the city where numbers move nations, where currencies rise and fall, where decisions in tall glass towers ripple through every home, every pocket, every table. If you control New York, you do not just control a city. You touch the veins of global trade. You place a hand on the heartbeat of money itself. It is a gate, and through it the wealth of the world passes. Do you see the way to that? Do you see why the enemy would hunger for it? Los Angeles, the gate of media. Not just a city of lights and cameras. Not just Hollywood glamour, but a megaphone to the world. Stories crafted there become stories believed everywhere. From movie screens to phone screens, from billboards to broadcasts. This is a gate of imagination, perception, persuasion. If you control Los Angeles, you do not just control entertainment. You shape narratives. You decide what is beautiful, what is shameful, what is true, what is false. Control the screen, control the story. And if you control the story, you control the people. This too is a gate. And then Chicago, the gate of the heartland. The middle, the crossroads, a place where highways and railways converge, where goods pass through on their way from one coast to another. But more than that, Chicago carries the weight of symbolism. It is the heart of America, the pulse between East and West. Its rhythm beats out into small towns, farms, factories, the ordinary lives that make up the backbone of this nation. If you weaken the heart, the body falters. If you choke the heart, the body collapses. Do you see it now? Chicago is not just another city. It is the center, the balance point, the keeper of the nation's pulse. And so the vision was not just about 3 locations on a map. It was about 3 gates. Finance, media, heartland. If these gates fall, the enemy does not just enter. He takes residence. He does not knock politely at the door of a nation. He marches through its gates. He claims its treasure, its voice, its heart. And in my vision, I saw those gates trembling. I saw hands pressing against them, trying to force them open. I saw cracks forming where watchmen should have been standing. and I trembled, because I realized how often we ignore the gates. We look at the noise inside the walls, the chaos on the streets, the disputes in the markets. But few stop to ask, what about the gates? Who guard them? Who watches? Who prays? The scriptures speak of gates often. The elders sat at the gates. Justice was declared at the gates. Enemies first pressed at the gates. And when a gate fell, the city fell. So hear me when I say this. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, these are not just population centers. They are spiritual thresholds. And the enemy is not after them merely to cause chaos. He is after them because of what they represent. For if you collapse the economy, you weaken the people's provision. If you corrupt the story, you enslave the people's perception. If you crush the heart, you destroy the people's endurance. Finance, media, heartland, the three gates. And all of us live within their shadow, whether we admit it or not. So I ask you, my dear friends, who is guarding these gates? Are we awake, or have we fallen asleep, lulled by distraction, seduced by comfort, deceived into thinking the walls are enough while the gates are left unwatched? This is why I speak with such urgency, why my tone carries the weight of a vow, because this vision is not entertainment. It is a summons, a call to intercede, a call to watch, a call to rise. The gates must not fall. And then the date was given, September 23rd. It did not come to me as a calendar page flipping in the wind. No, it was carved into the vision itself. I saw the number 23 again and again, written in light, written in fire, echoing like a bell across the heavens. It was not whispered, it was proclaimed, and yet it carried with it a mystery. Was it the day of the blow or the final warning before it? I remember waking with the number still burning behind my eyes. My heart was pounding. My hands were damp with sweat. I asked, Lord, why 23? Why September 23rd? And as I opened the word, my eyes fell upon Luke 21, verse 23. Woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. Do you hear that? Great distress. Wrath. The cries of the innocent caught in the tide of judgment. My friends, I did not search for that verse. The verse found me, as if the Spirit was guiding my hands. Turned the pages to reveal that the warning was not just about numbers, but about sorrow, about tribulation, about urgency. And I sat there, trembling, staring at the scripture, wondering, was the Lord saying this is a day of the strike? Or is this the day the final door of mercy begins to close? Think of Noah. He built the ark in plain sight. He hammered the wood. He sealed the pitch. He gathered the animals 2 by 2. The people mocked. They scoffed. They went on eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. And yet a day came, not the day of the flood itself, but the day God shut the door. After that moment, no more entered. The warning was over. The mercy was sealed. September 23 RD. Is it the day the flood begin, or the day the door shuts? That is the question that haunts me. That is the question I bring to you, not as a declaration, but as a burden laid upon my soul. For in the vision, I did not see clocks or bombs. I did not see maps marked with hours. What I saw was the number 23, glowing like a seal, repeated again and again as though heaven itself was underlining it. I saw it written over New York's skyline. I saw it drifting in the smoke of Los Angeles. I saw it etched into the waters of Lake Michigan by Chicago. 23, 23, 23. And every time I saw it, my spirit cried out, time is short, time is short, time is short. My dear friends, I do not share this for spectacle. I do not speak to frighten, but to awaken. For whether September 23rd is a day of impact or the final trumpet of warning, the call is the same. Be ready. Do not wait. Do not linger in the streets of Sodom, hoping the fire delays. Do not mock the ark while the rain clouds gather. Ask yourself, if the door shut today, would you be inside or outside? If the attack fell tomorrow, would your soul be at peace or in pieces? If the gates fall, will you be found under the shadow of his wings, or wandering in the open fields unprotected? This is why the number was given. This is why the Spirit impressed it so heavily. not to create charts, not to stir curiosity, but to stir urgency. The kind of urgency that makes a man sell all he owns to buy the pearl hidden in a field. The urgency that makes a mother gather her children close and say, "We must go. We must prepare. We must not be caught asleep." September 23rd. A number, a sign, a summons. Whether it is the day of the strike or the final knock of mercy, I cannot tell you with certainty. But I can tell you this. It is no ordinary date. It is no idle coincidence. It is a line drawn across time, and all of us must decide where we will stand when the line is crossed. I give you this as it was given to me, not with pride, but with trembling, not with confidence in myself, but with confidence in the one who warns before he acts. And if he has placed this date before us, it is because he longs to awaken, to save, to call his people under the shelter of his hand. The ark is being built. The door is not yet closed, but the day is coming. The number is written. The time is near. So then, my dear friends, the question hangs in the air like incense rising. What should you do? The visions have been spoken. The cities have been named. The date has been revealed. But what now? What becomes of you, sitting there with this word burning in your spirit? I will tell you this. Preparation is not fear. No, preparation is wisdom. And wisdom has always been the way of God's people. Look at Joseph. He was given a dream, a warning of famine. He did not tremble in the corner, wringing his hands. He built storehouses. He gathered grain. He made ready so that when the famine came, Egypt was not broken, but preserved. Was that fear? No, that was faith expressed through foresight. Look at Mary and Joseph, cradling the infant Christ. When Herod's wrath burned hot, an angel warned them in the night, "Flee to Egypt." And they fled. They did not argue with heaven. They did not cling to Nazareth, saying, "God will keep us safe here." They moved, they listened, they obeyed. Was that fear? No, that was obedience, which is the truest form of courage. And so I say to you now, if the Lord is whispering in your heart, leave, do not delay. Do not harden your heart and say, "It will not happen here, not in my city, not in my time." For wisdom listens before the storm breaks. Wisdom moves before the floodwaters rise. Some of you may not be able to leave permanently. I understand that. Work, family, ties that root you deep. But hear me. Leaving temporarily is not faithlessness. It is stewardship of the life God has entrusted to you. Perhaps this is the season to take that remote work option you've been delaying. Perhaps this is a time to visit family in another state, even if just for a few weeks. Perhaps this is the appointed moment to step back, breathe, and be out of the direct line of fire when the shaking begins. Others of you may feel the stirring to prepare your homes, your hearts, your households. Store water. Set aside provisions. Map out safe routes. These are not the actions of panic. They are the actions of one who has heard and believed. And yet, let me say this with all the weight of a vow. The truest preparation is not canned food or bottled water. The truest preparation is your soul's posture before God. For a man can be stocked with every earthly provision, but if his heart is far from the Lord, he is already undone. And another man may have little but trust, yet when the shaking comes, he will be held fast. So I ask you, how is your house? Not the house of brick and wood, but the house of your soul. Are the doors locked against despair? Are the windows sealed against temptation? Is the foundation anchored in Christ, or shifting sand? For what good is fleeing New York if you carry bitterness with you? What good is leaving Los Angeles if unbelief still reigns in your heart? What good is escaping Chicago if fear becomes your compass instead of faith? Do not confuse urgency with fear. Do not confuse warning with hopelessness. I speak because there is still time. I warn because the ark door is not yet shut. And if the Lord has stirred me to cry out, it is only because he longs to preserve, not to destroy. So listen carefully now. Ask yourself, is there a step you can take, even this week, to align with the warning? Could you call that family member and say, I need to come for a while? Could you speak to your employer and say, I must work remotely for a season? Could you sit with your children tonight and say, We will trust God, but we will also prepare. Do not despise small obediences. The ark was built plank by plank. Salvation unfolded step by step. And sometimes the smallest yes can become the very hinge on which destiny turns. Hear me, beloved. I do not tell you to move in chaos, but to move in clarity. I do not tell you to hoard, but to prepare wisely. I do not tell you to run in fear, but to walk in obedience. For those who listen and act will find themselves under the covering of the Almighty, hidden in the shadow of his wings when the arrows fly by day and the terrors stalk by night. So I leave you with this. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, the gates named, the date revealed, the call given, the choice remains with you. What will you do? And now, my dear friends, I turn the question back to you. For I have shared the visions as they were given to me. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. I have spoken of September 23rd, the gates, the urgency, the call to prepare. But prophecy is not complete until it touches the hearts of those who hear it. So I ask you plainly, do you live in these cities? Do you walk the streets of New York, feeling the shadows of the towers and bridges stretching over you like silent watchmen? Do you live in Los Angeles, where the lights of Hollywood dazzle, but something in your spirit whispers unease in the night? Do you dwell in Chicago, where the heartbeat of the Midwest seems steady on the surface, yet you feel a tremor beneath the ground? Tell me, do you feel it too? That stirring in your spirit? That tug in your chest when you hear these words? For I believe God never sends warnings to one man alone. He plants them in the hearts of many, scattered like seeds across the land. Some dream at night, some sense it in prayer. Some notice the tension rising in their neighborhoods, the headlines, the whispers. And when we gather, when we speak, when we share, the pieces of the puzzle align and confirmation arises like dawn. That is why I ask you, go to the comment below. Do not be silent. Share what you have felt, what you have seen, what you have sensed. Perhaps you too have had dreams of smoke or unrest. Perhaps you too have seen the number 23 appear in ways that felt more than coincidence. Or perhaps you simply feel a heaviness when you walk through your city, a weight that words cannot explain. Do not bury it. Speak it. Let this be more than a video. Let this be a gathering place, a witness of many voices, a chorus that says, "Yes, Lord, we hear. Yes, Lord, we are awake." And I want to say this gently but firmly. We are not called isolation. We are called to community. When you write your testimony in the comments, it may be the confirmation someone else has been waiting for. When you share your dream, it may be the missing piece of another's warning. When you say, "I too feel uneasy in this city," you tell another brother or sister, you are not alone. And that, my friends, is a gift beyond measure. So I invite you now, let us build not just an audience, but a family of watchmen, a family of those who listen, who discern, who do not dismiss the whispers of God. Write your story, write your prayer, write your confirmation. And as you do, may the Spirit knit us together across distance, across states, across nations. And while you are here, I ask, like this message, if it resonates in your soul, share it with someone who may need to hear before the hour grows darker. And above all, subscribe to this channel, Near Death Diaries, and turn on notifications, not for numbers, not for vanity, but so that every time a new word is released, you will not miss it, so that the warnings come to your door before the storm knocks louder. I do not speak for myself. I speak as one entrusted for a season with a burden, but this burden is lighter when carried together. So let us carry it, comment, like, share, subscribe, not because of me, Donald Switzer, but because the hour is urgent, the call is real, and the family of faith must stand watch side by side. There is something I must share with you now, something etched into the chambers of my own memory, like a scar that never fully heals. For prophecy is not theory, it is lived. It is tested in the flesh, in the dust of the road, in the trembling of one's own hands when danger comes close. And I would be dishonest if I only told you visions and did not reveal to you the wounds that taught me why warnings matter. Years ago, I was in Southeast Asia, traveling through a city whose name I will not speak. The streets were alive with movement, vendors selling fruit from baskets, children weaving through traffic, motorbikes buzzing like restless bees. It was the kind of place where life felt like it pulsed in every direction at once. And in the middle of that life, I received a warning, not from a voice of thunder, not from a dream at night, but from a quiet nudge in my spirit, a whisper that said, "Do not go down that road. Not today. Not now." But I brushed it aside. Perhaps you know that feeling, when the voice of God seems too small to matter against the noise of the world. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself it was only fear or superstition. I told myself, "You are being too cautious. Don't be ridiculous." So I walked anyway, and it was there, halfway down that narrow street, lined with old buildings and flickering neon, that it happened. Two men came out from the shadows, quick as the snap of a branch. Their eyes were hungry. Their hands reached for me. I remember the way the air seemed to thicken, the way my heart hammered against my chest as if it wanted to escape my body. I was shoved against the wall, pockets turned inside out, stripped of what little I carried. It was not just money they took. It was the peace of knowing I had ignored a whisper that could have spared me. I walked away shaken but alive. And that night, in the silence of a bare hostel room, I wept, not only for the loss, not only for fear, but for the realization that the Spirit had tried to protect me and I had refused to listen. I had hardened my ear and I paid the price. That was my lesson, written in bruises and in trembling breath. Ignoring small warnings is dangerous. The robbery itself was not the greatest wound. It was the shame of realizing how easily I had dismissed God's nudge. Since then, I have learned this. Every whisper matters. Sometimes he speaks in the storm, but more often he speaks in the still, small voice. And when you quiet your heart enough to listen, you will find that even the smallest warnings can steer you away from unseen danger. But here's the other side, the holy contrast. Heeded warnings save lives. I have also lived that truth. There were nights when the same quiet nudge told me, "Do not board that bus." And the next morning, I learned that very bus had crashed on the winding mountain road. There were times when the Spirit said, "Stay awake and pray." And later I discovered what unfolded in those very hours. A fire, a storm, a collapse that I had been shielded from simply because I obeyed. Do you see? The difference is not in the size of the warning. It is in whether we choose to listen. One act of obedience can become the very hinge between life and death. And so, when I speak of cities, when I speak of dates, when I speak of unease that lingers like a shadow, I do not speak as one removed, as one above it all. I speak as one who once ignored the whisper and felt the sting of consequence. I speak as one who has also obeyed and found life preserved. And I share this with you not to frighten, but to awaken. For the warnings given are not shackles, they are shields. They are not burdens, they are blessings. To ignore them is to walk blindfolded into danger. To heed them is to walk under the covering of a hand that sees what we cannot. This, my friends, is why I speak. This is why I testify. Because every whisper matters. And because I vowed, after that night in Southeast Asia, never again to brush aside the quiet voice of God.